Good evening. Welcome to the Finance Committee meeting of Town of Ayer, Thursday, March 21st, 2024 at 6 p.m. This is a hybrid meeting. This meeting of the Finance Committee will be held in person at the location provided on this notice. Members of the public are welcome to attend this in-person meeting. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and/or participation via Zoom is being provided as a courtesy to the public, the meeting hearing will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast unless otherwise required by law. Members of the public with a particular interest in a specific item on this agenda should make plans for in-person versus virtual attendance accordingly. This meeting will be live on Zoom. The public may access the proceedings by joining Zoom, meeting ID 860-8777-1519, or by calling 929-205-6099. For additional information about remote participation, please contact Carly Antonellis, Assistant Town Manager at atm@ayer.mass.us or 978-772-8220, extension 100, prior to the meeting. Good evening. We call the meeting to order. The first item is I'd like to propose two additions to the agenda. The first being we are going to review and approve not only the March 7th meeting minutes, but the February 15th meeting minutes. And also, we then are going to have a presentation by the police chief as a follow-up to his presentation from a previous meeting. So those are the two additions to the agenda. I move that we make those additions.
Second.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Jen? Aye. Very good.
Aye.
Okay, all right, we will now move forward with the agenda. Again, the first item is review and approval of the February 15th meetings and meeting minutes and the February 7th meeting minutes. Are there any changes, questions, additions?
There's one typo on the February 15th minutes.
Okay.
The last line, I made a motion to approve as opposed to approved the meeting minutes.
Motion to, okay, so drop the D.
Yep, other than that, good job, Eric.
Thank you.
It's a thankless job.
Well, not anymore. You said
Okay.
thank you.
Okay.
All right, I've made that, I've noted that on the minutes that'll be submitted.
I would like to make a motion to approve the 15th and the 7th minutes.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Jen?
Aye.
Aye. Very good. Okay, we're going to move on to the next item, which is a update.
3-7 minutes.
Pardon?
We did both.
Oh, we did both.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
the motion that was moved and second was to approve the February 15th and March 7th.
My
minutes.
apologies.
There was a typo on page 2 of the March 7th.
It's too late.
I'm sorry.
Oh, where is that?
It was missing a 0. 2020 in the second page.
Oh, the March 7th.
Yeah. Too late?
No, it's fine.
Which paragraph? Oh, I see that in the first paragraph. Okay. So, and I made that change on the copy that will be submitted to the town clerk. Okay, very good, thank you, Andrew. Okay, next up, we have a presentation by Chief Brian Gill. Welcome, Chief.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me this very brief second presentation, I promise. So when I left our main presentation the other day, I didn't get the warm and fuzzy feeling that we all understood the mechanisms for how the dispatch was funded. So I wanted to kind of really break it down to the most simplest parts. I don't know if anybody has the presentations or not.
We all have
Everybody got them?
copies, yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so really what we've all seen this. We're talking about in our command, in our structure, we're talking about the communications division. The next slide, and that hasn't changed. This slide also hasn't changed. This is our overall budget for our budget request for FY25. And what we really want to talk about is the third and final slide. So what I really wanted to highlight is how we have our total budget, we have grants, and then we have the town of Shirley assessment that we charge to them. So the top bullet that we have here, that's our initial starting budget that we worked with for the FY25, which was the $938,000. Then we applied the three grants, as you'll see, that are under that. And the first grant, the biggest one, is the support and incentive grant. The training grant, which generally comes out of our overtime, but it also covers some of the expenses of training classes. And our 911 EMD grant, which covers the expense of a service that we used to pay for outright. So with the grants, those can offset the budget directly. So that's why when we take our starting budget and we offset with all the grants, we come up with this $540,045. So that is our total budget that we're requesting through the omnibus. Now, we've been talking a lot about this, the assessment. So the assessment right now, the numbers that we're working with is 145. Just a note that we are working with the town of Shirley on negotiating the successor agreement, so that number has the potential to change. The other important thing is that 145, so that doesn't get applied directly to our budget here. So what the assessment does is that supports the budget through town income, so local receipts. So that number, in working with the finance director, so that number is accounted for in the financials of the income of the town, that they can predict that. So they know that that money's coming in. So then that is put into the calculation of money that's being brought in as part of the revenue. So that's why it can't be directly done. So, but what I wanted people to see is like kind of a visual reference, as I have on the final bullet. So that's the visual reference of what the budget looks like with the Shirley, the assessment at 145. So the Shirley assessment doesn't really get applied directly to any line in our budget, but it's part of all the money that comes in that helps support the entire budget, and then that offsets that. So that 395 is kind of just a visual reference of what that 145 looks like.
Got it. Okay.
And so part of what we did last time, we kind of applied it to a line just so you could see it in a line, but that's not exactly what happens.
But you have to request the full 540 to make it all kosher.
So that's why we have to request the full 540, because that's what we need to operate that budget.
Yep.
And out of that,
There's an
that
offset.
145 helps support that 540.
Pretty straightforward.
Perfect. Like I said, I wanted to kind of clarify that up a whole lot more, and I didn't get that warm and fuzzy feeling when I left the other day on this.
I appreciate it because, again, as first year going through all this, every single thing is new, so thank you.
Yeah.
Side question.
Sure.
Parking tickets.
Sure.
Where does that money go?
The parking tickets, we issue them.
Okay.
We don't collect them. How's that?
Yeah, sure.
Maybe Mr. Pompey can assist with that.
I'm just curious, because that is some level of back revenue, right? Of like,
Yeah, I could get the exact number, Mr. Chairman, members of the FinCom. So the police write them. My office, Ms. Antonellis, collects them, the parking tickets. As all money that comes in, it goes to the general fund. And so when Barbara does the revenue projections each year, she does factor that in.
Okay.
And we can get you the exact amount. I don't know it offhand.
Don't need the exact amount. Just curious.
Yep.
So just for clarification, so the revenue from parking tickets does not go directly to the police department?
Correct.
Thank you.
All right.
Any other
Thanks,
questions?
Chief. Good.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you for the time to let me clarify all that stuff. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Have
Thank you very
a good
much,
night.
Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
All right, moving forward, we're going to have a presentation by the Department of Public Works. Dan is joining us by Zoom and is going to drive the presentation, so to speak. Let's say the floor, but I will say the screen is yours, Dan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and FinCom, and I apologize I couldn't make it in person today. Let's see, is Cindy around, host the disabled screen share?
Oh boy, she left. Hold on. Hold on.
You just gotta hit the little tab next to share screen and click multiple participants can share.
Try now.
Look at that Dan acting as
There you go.
IT
Got
support.
it.
See?
Here it comes. Everybody see that?
It's loading, I think.
Oh yeah, all loading, yeah.
I hope. Just make sure I didn't miss it.
So you have that open on your screen, Dan?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is the USB still in there? Is that
No,
interfering?
Interesting.
What's going on there?
Let's see. Just try one more time, Dan.
Yeah, hang on, I'm kind of frozen up over here.
Oh, okay.
I'm frozen. It could be me.
Yes, Xfinity has been hit or miss the last few days.
Days
Yeah.
or decades.
Pauline has a hand raised.
Now, if this doesn't work, do you have the presentation there?
Yep, and I think we could pull it up from the town
Okay.
website also.
Okay.
Okay. Give me a minute. I'm spinning here. Can't even change the screen.
Kurt, Pauline has her hand up. Sure.
Just let's get the presentation
Sure.
open.
Sure.
Pauline, do you have a quick observation while we're pulling that up?
Yes, Kurt, just an observation. It's a very large document. I looked at it today. It's really large, so that might be taking the time.
Gotcha.
And I just want to share that with you, and nothing else.
Very
Thank
good.
you for letting me say that.
You're welcome. Thank you. Yep, that one. Deep dipper. Okay, Dan, we've got it actually pulled up at our end here.
Where's my full screen option? Okay, hold on.
Okay, give me a second.
Yours pulled up? Dan?
Oh, mine pulled up?
No.
Whoop.
No, that's me. Is it?
Okay.
No, that's him.
Yeah, we're viewing his screen.
Yep.
All right. All right, I think we're good to go.
Okay, very good, good. Quick, Jen, I saw your clapping, but you can see the presentation?
Yes, I can see the font.
Okay, very good. And I assume, Pauline, you can see it also. Very good. All right, Dan.
Yes, I can. Thank you very much.
Okay. Just
Take
let
it
me know
away.
if there's any other technical issues as I go. All right, so Finance Committee meeting, March 21st, 2024, a presentation of the DPW budget. So just to start out, definition of public works from Merriam-Webster Dictionary: works such as schools, highways, docks, constructed for public use or enjoyment, especially when financed and owned by the government. So some examples down below. We have stormwater bridge culvert on the left, our water treatment system in the middle. We have our roadways, sidewalks, and all the infrastructure underneath them the town owns. So here's kind of a general list of assets maintained by the DPW: roadways, bridges, culverts, stormwater. We have 2 water treatment plants and the associated water distribution system, a wastewater treatment plant with the collection system, transfer station, 2 landfills. They're both capped and closed, municipal and sludge landfills, Woodlawn Cemetery, public shade trees through the tree warden. The tree budget is in DPW, and streetlights. So here's Department of Public Works. There's the following divisions: admin, administration, engineering, highway, water, wastewater, solid waste, and I'll get into each one and what we do. So some of our significant buildings, the DPW administration building, most of you have probably been there, 25 Brook Street in the photo. That was constructed in about 2018. We moved in May of 2018, fairly new. Also on that premises, highway garages, there's two. The maintenance and storage garage on the left, built in 1970, and the new storage garage built in 2018, which also has an overhang fuel canopy as well for our fuel station. That's the town's fuel station in the background here, where I'm kind of circling with my mouse.
So, Dan, real quick question. So we purchase most of our oil and hold it in a tank ourselves and fuel the town cars from equipment from there?
Yeah, so
Okay.
Gasoline and diesel are both, there's a dispenser here, and it's located in that above-ground storage tank, the fuel is, and all town vehicles will fill up there. Police, everybody in town.
Okay, well, that's good to know. So we don't go to the local gas station, so we, okay.
Right.
Good. And I assume we have savings through bulk purchases.
Correct.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Grove Pond, so these are our significant buildings in water. We have our Grove Pond Water Treatment Plant, which is shown in the left here. The PFAS Treatment Addition is this building with the white roof. Our original plant was actually upgraded in 2013, as well as a garage out in the back. At Spectacle Pond, the water treatment plant, that's the satellite plant, doesn't have the main office. So we have our original treatment plant in the background of the photo and the new PFAS treatment in the forefront of the photo. And there's also two storage tanks. 1.5 million gallon Washington Street storage tank, that's up by the school, the high school, and Page Hilltop. And our Pingree Hill storage tank, it's a 1 million gallon tank over in the Pingree Hill neighborhood. Wastewater, the treatment plant is also located on the 25 Brook Street campus. It's further, if you were to drive past the highway garages, it's further out back from the admin building and highway. That was built in 1982. We've been doing many capital upgrades as part of, that was a 5-year capital which we stretched out to be kind of palatable for us to take on, and you'll see that in our capital budget. Also, there's 19 pumping stations, so there's quite a bit for a small town. Our main and Central Ave pumping stations, this is a picture of Central, they're our largest stations. I'll get more into it later. The transfer station, many of you have probably been there, but there's a tipping garage, tipping floor. There's a big structure there, as well as other vehicles, equipment, structure.
Question, Dan?
Yeah.
If you're going to go over this later, feel free to answer it then, but you mentioned 19 pumping stations is quite a bit for a small town. Why do we have 19?
I think just over time, in the past, maybe a private owner could have owned some of them, but just the way things were done, the town took ownership. So typically now, for example, Panther Place subdivision, they're going to have to put in a pump station, but we're not taking ownership of that, and HOA will manage it. So we have a few small stations like that where we have to maintain. Winterberry Lane, for example, it's a very small station, but it is a pump station. Technically, the town owns it, but unfortunately, now we have to maintain it.
I got you. Thank you.
Yeah. Vehicles and equipment, we have a significant amount of vehicles and equipment, as you can imagine, for maintaining the roads and especially snow removal. I'm not going to go through this list, but these are, in the presentation, which is on the website if anyone wants to go through. But, quite a bit in highway and then also in our other divisions as well. The organizational chart, so this is the way DPW is set up in the town. Select board is the ultimate in charge, followed by the town manager, and then that follows, the director of public work falls under there, and then down to the various divisions. So we have our engineering on our left, town engineer, civil engineer 1, our business manager with our administrative assistants as well to do our water and sewer billing and serve the front office. The tree warden, the water sewer superintendent in charge of water and wastewater divisions, and then the highway division foreman and solid waste foreman who report to the director. So general administration in general provides customer service, sells stickers and bags for the transfer station, administers water and sewer billing, payroll, oversees day-to-day internal functions of the DPW, and there's 5 employees, myself, the director, business manager, water sewer and superintendent, department assistant, and billing and admin assistant. Just a general on engineering. Engineering, this is a little bit of what they do, but provide in-house engineering to support division and capital projects. For example, almost every year when we're doing water main replacements, we design that in-house. The upcoming Sandy Pond Road Complete Street project was designed in-house, but we also work with consultants for projects like the Main Street Bridge, for example. Provide professional engineering review for various committees and boards. There's 1 PE and 1 junior level engineer, and also the director has a PE license. Me. Okay, DPW admin, let's get into some budget. So the DPW administrative operating budget is shown here. I'll just get into the differences compared to last year. So we did increase our utilities, and you'll see this across the board. Due to the electric and gas set rate increase, so that the town was locked in with electric and gas, and those are set to expire. So we'll expect to have to pay more for those utilities. And then also in here, we are working on implementing a townwide permitting software, SmartGov, and that's going to get put into the DPW budget. So that's where it's shown here. Other than that, we're on level funding. Except for wages and salaries, which go up by contractually, and by contractually.
Dan, quick question. So the permitting, is that for building permits, that type of thing?
Yeah, it's more than just DPW. It would be for several departments, and we're still kind of working it out, but building will be part of it. And then probably a few other departments, and I'm working with Robert on getting that going.
Okay, so.
But building's definitely higher.
So I'm glancing at Robert real quick. So we're including this permitting budget under DPW for right now?
For right now,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, for now, so kind of DPW has actually already implemented it, kind of soft implemented it. We're kind of the first ones to do it, just to see how it works. And then other departments are soon to follow suit, and I know building is probably next. So, so that's mainly why it's landed here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Highway, summary on highway. So the highway division maintains the 45 miles of roadway, stormwater assets, our pipes, our structures, our best management practices. So for example, if you see a stormwater retention basin, that's a best management practice, a rain garden, things like that treat stormwater. It's the primary division for snow removal. So if there's ever just a salting event, it's highway. If there's salting and plowing, highway, they're in charge. They all report to me ultimately. There are 6 employees shown here. I won't go through them all, and they are on call for emergencies. This is just a map of the town of Ayer. It's a little bit of an older one, but gives you an overview of the amount of roadways in town. They're all listed down in the bottom here, but this is the infrastructure we're looking at the highway division maintaining. And then this is our MS4 stormwater map. So highway also maintains the stormwater system, through working with engineering and the director as well. But this is just our MS4 map. It's available on the website, and I won't get into too much info on it right now.
Dan, just a quick question. So this stormwater map would be tied into, again, just an overall question on sewer, and again, we have sanitary sewer, and this town has separate storm sewers, correct?
Yeah, the
Right.
systems are totally separate.
Right. And this stormwater map would be sort of tied into the stormwater system, correct?
Yes, yes, and what this is displaying is it displays, you can kind of see real close here, the orange, that's the stormwater pipes and the manholes and catch basins, so this is our mapping of it. So these ultimately go out to these little pink dots, which are the outfalls. So, you know, the stormwater lands in the road, enters the catch basin, goes through the pipe, and then it ends up in the waterway.
Gotcha, okay, yeah, no, it's just, I mean, with the sewer and stormwater always on our mind, and I just think it's always important to note that those are separate systems, and so this is good just to give us a feel for that. So,
Yeah.
good, great, thank you.
Yep. Okay, the highway operating budget. So changes from last year, the wages and overtime, those changed with the union contract for the employees in there. Highway utilities, we are also increasing, as I mentioned, due to the electric and gas set rate increase. And then DPW line painting. So these are based on our quotes from last year. The price has gone up significantly to about $30,000. So we have to increase that budget, to do our long line paintings, which we refresh every year for the entire town. Those are our yellow center lines and our fog lines. So that's our big increase there. Equipment repair, this is the mechanics operating budget. So this one has been level funded, and you can see the wages are actually zero. So we actually, the position's actually open right now, we haven't filled it, so that's why there isn't an employee there getting an increase in accordance with the contract. So we're working to fill that position. Otherwise, we've level funded this based on our current trends, and I don't see any reason to increase the funding. Snow removal operating budget. So the only change here from last year is increasing the contract slightly for the services. That's the contracts with private plow drivers. We have four or five, depends how many we can get on board a year of private plow drivers, and it's been harder to get them, and we've had to increase the pay to retain them. So that's the increase recommended here.
Question?
Yeah.
So, for the budget for the snow removal and whatnot. So let's say you have a winter where, there's really no snow. Would that be a situation where you don't use the entire proposed budget, if you will, or set budget?
Yeah.
And then what?
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say, so then, as an example, FY24 budget 358,660. Let's say you only use 300,000 because it never snowed. What happens to the other 58?
So, Robert, correct me if I'm wrong, but at the end of the fiscal year, it would just go back to the general fund, right?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Robert.
Just really quick, because it's a great question. On the snow removal, whatever isn't used at the end of the year would revert back and would be reflected in when we talk about next year's free cash. So whatever he doesn't use.
Okay.
Another interesting point, if we have a winter where there is lots of snow, this is one of the few accounts where the town can actually deficit spend, not just the town of Ayer, but in Massachusetts, the Department of Revenue, if you had a huge winter, because it's a matter of public safety. It has not happened, Dan, in several years, but if he had to, if there wasn't enough, he could deficit spend, and then we have to make that up in the next year. So it is a unique account, so good questions on both fronts.
Thank you.
I want to say when I was first came in as director, I was getting a little worried because the cost of salt and sand and fuel kind of jacked up, in the middle of the season. So I was like, uh-oh, but we ended up still being under budget. Stormwater, the operating budget. The changes here from last year. Services, we've added $10,000 for catchment investigations. We're going to need a consultant to help us with our MS4 permit and the requirements and our I think it's year 6 of the permit, investigating our stormwater catchments. So those are kind of our small watersheds that feed into each outfall. So we've increased that budget here for that. Catch basin, what that really is, stormwater catch basin, it's catch basin cleaning. So we're required through our MS4 permit and just through good practice to clean the catch basins annually. Get all the sediment that's in there out of them. And so based on last year's quote, I've increased the request here. Cost has gone up a little bit. And then the storm drain upgrades and culvert improvements, the changes here, I've moved those to capital. These really are capital improvements. It's similar to like our water main upgrades where we upgrade our stormwater system, our pipes and our catch basins in certain areas like 3rd Street last year when we did our big project out there. And it's really difficult to spend it in the operating budget also because we have to spend it by June 30th each year. And we can't really do the work in the winter. So we kind of find ourselves scrambling because you have to bid a project, get it out, and you kind of get stuck up on time. You're like, I could try to spend my stormwater, upgrade money before I lose it. And then, so in the capital budget, that we would have those funds over fiscal year to fiscal year. We can use it. Another reason to have it there.
Okay, Dan, I'm just going to use this sort of a follow-up to my, on the question of the, again, sanitary sewer and the stormwater sewer, which is, again, separate systems. The important thing is that sewer and water, which you are going to touch on, are in their own enterprise funds, correct?
That's right.
Right. Stormwater is part of your budget and is part of the general budget and is paid from the general fund, correct?
That is correct. So,
okay.
Yes. So the stormwater operating budget is paid from the general fund, which comes from the tax base.
Correct.
The water and sewer budgets are enterprise funds, and those are not funded from the tax base. They're funded by mainly by the water and sewer rate revenue that we receive.
Okay.
So, we did give that presentation a few meetings ago that the town does have a stormwater utility advisory work group, and that group is evaluating potential stormwater enterprise fund. So there is a website available, or there's a dedicated website on the town website for this group, which has a lot of information that the group's been looking at.
Okay, and that's why I was asking the question. So, depending on which direction we choose to go in as a town, theoretically, this stormwater budget then would be removed from this budget and go into its own enterprise fund, if that was just.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. Again, just trying to, since that's sort of on a back burner, so to speak, I just wanted to make sure that we're aware and everyone is aware of, how this is impacting the budget. So, okay, thank you.
Yeah, that was good. All right, what is next? Street light operating budget. I didn't have any reason to make any changes here. And what this is for is maintaining the street lights in town. And we have a contractor come out when we have some lights out, and he'll fix them. Usually it's not the actual light bulb itself, but it's part of the operating inside the unit. And so no reasons to make any changes. We talked a little bit about the fueling station. So it is at DPW and services all town vehicles. And no changes to the budget this year. I think last year we made some significant changes when the fuel had increased significantly, and this time I think keeping it level funded is best. Cemetery budget. Woodlawn Cemetery, the town took ownership in April of 2022. And so there are wages here, changes to those. So right now we have a part-time employee, a cemetery superintendent, and he may possibly be leaving us or in FY25. So I put an increase in here as we're determining what we would do next, just as a placeholder, excuse me, for those wages. And services, I increased slightly based on our last year's bids for the maintenance of the Woodlawn Cemetery. So we have a landscape contractor who comes out and takes care of all the grounds up there, as well as spring, fall cleanup as well. Excuse me. Tree warden. So the tree warden budget is within DPW. The only changes here is we reduced the services. So we felt that we could, excuse me, especially working with the current difficulties with the increases with the schools and other parts of the budget, we wanted to reduce things. And I think the services of the tree warden we could reduce without losing much level of service. We're in the middle of trying to implement a 10-year management plan, which is kind of shown in the picture here. The town has a tree management plan. So that's why the budget was up around $63,000. I think we'll still be able to get a good level of service while helping to save some funds for the town.
Question?
I did put an increase. Oh yeah, go ahead.
What are tree warden services?
So that's actually having a contractor come out and remove trees, remove stumps, prune trees, maintenance, items like that. So that's paying for the contractor.
Okay, so the stipend being for the warden, who then says, okay, hey, this needs to be taken care of, and the services then pay for what needs to be taken care of.
Yeah, so the town, and every town's required to have a tree warden, so he is paid a stipend, and that's his wages. Right, and then the services are the contractor that he hires, but I work with him. We have a bid every year to kind of work on this 10-year plan we're doing. But, we'll have certain things come up during the year that need to be addressed that, were unknowns that, as things come up every year. So having that budget there is where it would come from.
Thank you.
And I was going to mention, so an increase for the annual software renewal. So you can kind of see in the bottom right here, we have the inventory of all the trees in Ayer that are publicly owned. And so we use a software to monitor those, update that software when we remove trees, et cetera, et cetera. So just to have that software put an increase in the budget. Water and sewer. So now we're moving on. We're past general fund, past tax base. We're getting into enterprise funds. So water and sewer enterprise funds. Both the divisions are funded through those enterprise funds, so not through the tax base. Just in general, communities establish these enterprise funds for business type services. And it's essentially funding is based on the services provided as opposed to coming from the tax base, as I was mentioning. So the way we do it with the water and sewer is water is metered by and the property owner is billed for at the current water and sewer rates based on the water usage. It's assumed that the sewer goes down, the sewer goes down the drain, or not the sewer, the water goes down the sewer drain. So that's the assumption there. So we use the water meter to also pay for the sewer. Each year, a rate model is utilized by the rate review committee to review and recommend rates to the select board. In March 19th, just the other day, the select board had a public hearing and with the vote to recommend FY25 water and sewer rates. So that has been completed for FY25. Quick summary for water. There's 3 licensed water operators, 5 employees listed here. I won't go through them. They operate and maintain the treatment plants, the storage, which are the water storage tanks, and the distribution system, and they are certainly on call for emergencies. Excuse me. Here's a general map of our water system. The Grove Pond treatment plant is down along the Devon's border to the south, and our Spec Pond plant is in the east near Littleton. And so those are 2 plants pumping the water, treating it into the system. And that water goes into the system, goes up to our storage tanks at Pingree Hill and Washington Street. And that'll pressurize the system and provide water storage to meet demand. Water enterprise operating budget. So I'll kind of briefly go through changes. Salary and wages changes again in accordance with the union contract. Water services, we recommend to increase this year with some upcoming items this year. SCADA issues that we need to address, so those are our computer systems which monitor our water, our water treatment plant, and and it communicates with us when there's an issue at the plant. AC pipe transportation and disposal, what that is asbestos cement pipe. So we actually, probably 50% of the pipe in Ayer is asbestos cement. And so when we remove that, it has to be disposed of specially. This should be outdoor lighting at Spec Pond, Washington Street tank, and then also a connection to our new trailer mounted generator. Water utilities, so we've increased these again across the board, like I mentioned, for the electric and gas. And you notice it seems like a significant increase here, 53,000. All the pumping we do, the water in the water and in the sewer division, or wastewater division, there's a lot of pumping, a lot of energy used. So they'll be the biggest energy hogs, so they'll use the most electricity and have the highest change.
So Dan, just because I'm being dense, so this is the actual electric and gas bill for the water?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Expense, okay.
Yep. This says level, but we did increase the funds for maintenance of wells. We found the cost has gone up to maintain our wells. We like to do a cleaning. We have 5 wells. We like to clean one a year and kind of rotate it around so that they operate efficiently. And also some other increases in the water fund supplies, lab supplies, plastic tubing, bitter meters at Spec Pond after the green sand. These are some items that have gone up in price and that are necessary. And then there's some items down here which are related to the finance, which have gone down. Excuse me. Is this working? Oh, there we go. Wastewater summary. So there's 3 licensed wastewater operators that are required for the plant and 6 employees. They operate and maintain the wastewater treatment plant, the collection system, and also the 19 pump stations we mentioned. And they are certainly on call for emergencies as well. Here's a map of the wastewater system. And just in general, we have the treatment plant. It's not actually identified. It's down in this area on here. This is an older map. I'll have to update. The sewer is collected throughout town, and it goes to our main pumping station just on the DPW grounds near the admin building. And from there, it gets pumped either to Devon's or to the Devon's system or to Ayer's wastewater treatment plant. We actually have an agreement with Devon's to have reserve capacity in their system. Jim has a...
Yes.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, the previous slide. So the water budget, did that come from the one before that? Yeah. So this is water enterprise.
Right.
So this is funded by the enterprise fund, right?
That's correct.
Do you always get it just balanced? Do you have problem with it not having enough from the enterprise fund?
No, most of the time we come in under budget. Last year we did need a reserve fund transfer, so the water budget does have its own, basically savings account, our water retained earnings. So if during the year we're going to spend more money than budgeted, we'd have to go to town meeting to get approval for more funds. So last year we actually, at spring town meeting, we had to get a reserve fund transfer because we had some significant costs last year. But most of the time we come in within our budget.
So the REIT committee has done a good job setting the rates.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay, yeah, it's a little more dynamic than that. Like when we set the rates, we're kind of modeling and seeing what's going to happen over time. But having that retained earnings in water is really what's, the safety net for the enterprise fund.
Good.
Uh-oh.
You're the chair. You got this.
Okay, Jen, are you all set with that question?
I have a question too.
Oh, Andrew, now, Jen, are you set? Okay?
She seems okay.
Okay, Andrew?
Hey, Dan, I had a question. Sorry, back to the water enterprise.
Yeah.
I see the debt principal went down, but the interest went up. Did we issued new debt and paid off old debt? Is that what that is? Wait, what?
I believe that is correct, but I don't know if Barbara is there? I don't know. Because these are items that she calculates, but I
Okay.
believe you are correct.
We'll write a note and ask her later.
Okay.
Robert, would you have be able to shed any light on that?
We should follow up with Barbara.
Okay, all right, we'll check with that. Okay, because I think actually that comes up with the, under the sewer also.
Correct.
See that, okay. And I know that, would that have anything to do with her, with the and I don't want to go too far off. Fine, we'll ask Barbara for more details.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Wastewater. Okay. Similar budget line items to water or wastewater. Let's see, changes to the wages and salaries are based on the union contract. Sewer fund services, more suck out than like that, where it's really like they're vacuuming out the wet wells, they're called, for our pump stations. And so we need to do that periodically in order to properly maintain our stations. Sediments will build up in there, and other items. So we need to do some more of those. We've fallen back on our schedule. Other things we got to do is inspect and paint our tertiary tanks. So those are downstream of our treatment. Increased cost for regulatory sampling. So there are some increases this year. We have to sample for PFAS now at the wastewater plant. It's just a sample right now. There's no regulatory requirement or limit. Filter feed pumps need to be pulled, so we need to pull those and address them. The sewer for Devon services. So this is the budget the town has for being able to divert sewer flows to Devons and have reserve capacity at their wastewater plant, which is required by our regulations in the state and our permit. Essentially, we're level funding this. We just increased it to be a round number of $250,000. We will hope that the infiltration inflow II repairs we're doing will start helping with reducing the flows we're seeing at our treatment plant, which would help reduce what we have to send to Devons. Great item here, the sludge removal is going down 125,000. So last January, we installed a gravity belt thickener, GPT.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, so what it does, it thickens the sludge in our wastewater. So we used to have like 1% sludge within a water mixture. Now it's up to 3 or 4 or 5%. So what that does is reduces hauling, reduces trucking costs, and saves us a lot of money on our sludge removal. So we've reduced those funds here, the funding request.
Dan, back to the Devon services. Is there ever a world where we never need that flow?
I do not see it. The only world we'd have is if the town were to do a capital upgrade and increase the capacity of our existing plant, and that'd be a major cost. I'd imagine a cost-benefit analysis, it wouldn't be a good idea. That's why we are going to Devon. So right now, the town is already at its 80% design flow for our treatment plant, the Ayer treatment plant. Mm-hmm. So when you reach that point, you have to have a plan or another option for additional capacity according to DEP regulations. So Devon's we've connected to Devon's for that.
Okay, I assume they now have plenty of available inlet, whatever, inflow.
Devon's.
Yeah. Right. They'll take
Yeah,
as much as we want to give them, kind of thing.
We have an agreement with them, and the reserve capacity we have is the maximum daily flow we can send is 350,000 gallons a day. So there's a limit. Mm-hmm. They would likely accommodate us if we were in a pinch, but but that's our maximum daily. But there's also a part of that agreement, we have to send them a minimum amount each day to, you know, as part of that. So that's how it kind of works.
Okay.
Question?
Yep.
Not that I want to propose raising taxes or spend more money, but we still have, you know, building in town, and building will continue in town, and we will use more water, and Devon's will likely continue to grow, and, you know, if they're going to turn Vicksburg Square into housing as an example, is this truly a viable long-term solution? You know, because I'd imagine a $250,000, I don't know how much a new treatment plant would cost, obviously a lot, but I mean, that over a decade, that's $2.5 million at the current rate. So,
Yeah.
I'm just slightly concerned about the future, that, like, you know, might be something we need to plan for.
Yeah, so currently we're in, the agreement we have with Devon's is a 10-year agreement, and then kind of as we're approaching that, we would reassess what we're gonna do. Excuse me, my throat's a little dry. But the $350,000 that we have with them, it was based off of future projections of future growth in Ayer, of what the needs are for the town of Ayer. So that's how we got to that number. So we're kind of in good shape through 2035-ish, and then we'll have to, you know, reassess as we're approaching that time frame. I mean, those are good points. And similarly with water, we do capacity projections as well, and supply projections, and address that through a master planning project, or master plan, I should say.
I'm all set.
Okay, yeah, and actually, Eric, this is Kurt. Dan, I'm just going to sort of follow up on Eric's observation. Do we know, what is Devon's capacity? You mentioned that we're operating at around 80% capacity, correct? For
Yes.
do we know what Devon's is operating at?
I don't know those numbers, what they're at now. I don't have those with me now, but I could get back to you on it.
Okay, because I mean theoretically, to get back to Eric's observation, as growth continues, if we're using Devon's, we would hope that Devon's has capacity to handle extra also. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, another thing to note too is that I think about 30% of our flow is II. So what that's infiltrated inflow, that's non-wastewater getting into our pipes. So as we reduce that, we're actually adding capacity to our own system. So we got to continue those projects too, which, you know, the capital planning committee's been good about. So it's kind of, you reduce that, and obviously you got to plan ahead for the future. No, so yeah, those are good points and good thoughts, good questions.
Oh, okay, so you just answered it. So when you have that one picture where one of the sewer pipes is leaking and there's water coming into that, like groundwater going into the sewer pipe, that's what you're talking about. So because of that sewer pipe leaking, we're paying to treat groundwater.
Exactly.
So if we have good the sewer pipes are fixed, that decreases the amount of water we're treating. It all comes together.
Correct.
Okay, good. Thank you, Dan.
Yeah.
This is probably beyond the scope of this conversation, Dan, but is there someone looking at what happens if the Ayer part of Devon's gets reabsorbed into Ayer?
We have not at DPW begun looking at that. I mean, our wastewater, our water systems are completely separate, so I would imagine they would probably remain that way. I don't know though, but that would be, I mean, Robert, it'd probably be the committees that are working on those items that would start looking at that, right?
Yeah.
I assume that was the case. I didn't know. Maybe maybe their water treatment plant is in the Ayer part of town, and we get two treatment plants.
Oh, right. It's in the Shirley part.
Oh, okay.
We'll just regionalize it.
Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, no, as, then just Dan, if you could just check on that, what Devon's is operating at as far as their
Yeah.
capacity. That would be good to know since we are using them. Okay, good, thank you. But I just, another final observation, the sludge removal thing is great.
Yeah, and that was expected from this project, and it's awesome to see that realized. Yeah.
Is this going to affect Rhode Island's budget?
There's not many places to bring sludge, so yeah, that's where we bring the sludge, is Cranston, Rhode Island, so they'll probably still be okay.
I digress, sorry.
Yeah, the solid waste budget, so this is an enterprise fund as well, solid waste. The solid waste division operates the Ayer transfer station, maintains the Ayer brush dump, that's over on the 25 Brook Street parcel, way out back in the woods off of McPherson, or Bishop Road, I should say. Also maintaining the municipal closed landfill, and there's 2 employees, foreman and an operator. So the budget here, again, wages are increasing in accordance with the union contract. Utilities also increasing, again, in accordance with all the other budgets with the electric and gas set rates. Solid waste recycling removal, I've reduced that. Over the last year, the recycling markets are more favorable, the commodities market, so we're spending less to remove our recycling, which is good. And also, police details, I just removed that from the budget, it's not required. So, just some reductions here.
Okay.
And then I won't go into all this, but just some significant projects that took DPW's horn. What
So,
we did
Dan,
last year.
if I may, I'm going to take a quick moment here to sort of follow up on these, because essentially we've just looked at the 3 enterprise funds, water, sewer, and solid waste / transfer, correct?
Yep.
Okay. And I think Eric's, or someone asked, so real quickly, again, it may not have the amounts on at your fingertips, but for, I think you mentioned water, we took a little bit out, for the enterprise fund, we took a little bit out of reserve fund last year, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. However, and I'm going to look for Robert, or we may need to get more detail, we did not have to pull anything from the general fund for the water enterprise fund.
No, it came from the water retained earnings.
Okay.
Basically water savings bank, water savings account.
Okay. How about the sewer then? Do you know that? Did we?
Yeah. Last year, I believe we also had a small reserve fund we did for the sewer as well, and that came from the sewer retained earnings. So, they have their own savings accounts, basically, is what I call them, the retained earnings.
Okay.
And, working with Barbara and Robert, we work with, financial policies and procedures to try to keep those at a healthy budget.
So then with
when things happen, you have money.
Right. So on the sewer though, we did pull some from the sewer reserve fund, retained earnings, but nothing from the general fund also. I'm getting.
No.
Okay. And then I'm going to, and I know the answer to this question, with the transfer station, we do pull some from reserve fund, and we do, in the transfer solid waste enterprise fund, we do pull some from the general fund.
Yes, I did. I think I forgot to mention that in these slides. So essentially, the solid waste enterprise budget is subsidized by the general fund. It's roughly $180,000 to $200,000 given the year. But as those budgets are created, there has been general fund money used for the solid waste enterprise fund to subsidize it.
Okay.
There was no reserve fund transfers or anything last year.
Okay. Good. No, I just think it's good that we get a sort of a snapshot of how we're doing with those 3. And then that was just the with the transfer station, we do currently have the outside firm doing a study on the transfer station, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So through the rate review committee, their Time Bond is conducting a third-party evaluation to look at the operations and finances and look at reducing costs in the solid waste budget.
Terrific, great. Thank you very much for that summary, Dan.
Question?
Yeah, thanks. Good points.
Question. What is the solid waste indirect cost reimbursement?
Reimbursement.
It's 134,000.
I don't know if that is for our fringe benefits?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's for our fringe benefits for the employees. And I don't know if there's something else bulked in there. I know without Barbara here, she would probably have a better answer than I can provide.
I believe, I'm looking for Robert for confirmation. I believe this is, in other words, the benefits for these employees are taken care of through the town, and then these, each enterprise fund has to reimburse the town for those costs.
Okay, so for like health insurance.
Health insurance
Okay.
and other benefits and everything like that.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
To me, kind of high just for fringe benefits because the wage is only 125,000 and the benefits are more than the wages. So there may be something else in there.
I think, yeah, and I'm going to, and maybe we can make a note, but I'm thinking that includes pension, any other town cost. But yeah, I'm going to make a note on that because I've got 2 notes now for Barbara.
Actually,
Yeah.
the town accountant, Carrie,
The indirect
Go to the-
cost,
Okay.
I don't want to,
Yeah.
the indirect cost is not just the health insurance benefits, it's also administrates, it's a percentage of their annual budget that has to be paid out of the general appropriation.
Okay.
So that indirect cost will directly go into the general appropriation for not just health benefits, but some of the benefits that Barbara does of her salary, some of the benefits of the accountant position. It's a percentage, it's not just fringe benefits.
Not just for those 2 people, it's for
No.
everyone that touches
No.
it.
It's anything that could be, it could be affiliated with the whole project, the whole enterprise fund, not just fringe benefits.
Would an analogy be sort of if a large company, I run a department in part of a large company. When I do my department's budget for the year, I get a note from the large company's accounting department saying, by the way, you're responsible for X amount of general cost that
Exactly.
we provide to your department from the large company.
Exactly. It's basically an indirect cost that we have to have a percentage that is directed to the people that approach anything to do with that enterprise fund. So it's not just the fringe benefits of insurance and so forth.
Got it.
Thank you.
Does that make sense?
So then, do you have this line item on the other 2 enterprise fund too? I wasn't paying attention.
Yes, the line item is the solid waste indirect, it's basically revenue coming into the town. And it's not on, it's basically considered a revenue, so it would not show up in your line item budget because it's revenue that comes into the town. It's a revenue source. And it's basically just, it's balancing out the enterprise money that is directed for. It's kind of like a wash. So you have your indirect costs and then you have your subsidy that goes back in.
Got it.
And Jen, I'm just glancing at the budgets for the 3,
Could you see that the water as the sewer, those 2 tables, do they have this on here?
yes, they do.
They do.
Yeah, that's-
Oh, okay, sorry, thank you.
And there's actually in the ambulance fund as well. It's all of the enterprise funds have an indirect cost.
Got it.
Great. Our education continues. Good.
Thank
Mine
you.
does too.
Thank you very much, Carrie. Okay, Dan, I sort of jumped in on your presentation, I apologize. Any other questions though before Dan continues with significant, okay, keep us rolling here as I get
Okay.
get us too far off track.
Significant projects, I don't think I'll get into these, but they're in, in the packet here in the Public Works, really, we get a lot done. I would like to think and say, 'cause there's a lot going on all the time, so. Ongoing capital, here's a list as well. So, we go through the capital planning process and work on those projects. Those also get factored into the water and sewer rates as well. So here's a list here. I don't want to get into it just in the interest of time. Some of the other things we do assist other departments as well with our expertise. Having professional engineering here is, especially helpful, as well as our operators and laborers who have special licenses as well and operate heavy equipment. But for example, Parks Department, we help them with their garage office at Perimeter Path, currently helping them manage the playground, project management for that. The Senior Center, the Site Selection Committee, we're supporting there. We work well and support fire and police, and they support us too. We also help develop GIS plans for other departments. Our engineering department does have GIS capabilities, which is great. And we do support for local events, some of the ones named here. The DPW in the spring, summer has a Youth Works program. I guess it's a summer program. We start advertising in the spring, so that'll come up again this year and get some students on board to have their first job. And then we do attend and sometimes present data. As you can see in the photo here, I had a presentation at industry society events. This was NUIA this past January on wastewater presentation. And that's it. So thank you. And if you have any more questions, we can go.
Dan, could you just maybe on the ongoing capital page, did you touch on, can just hit, I guess did you cover that page or?
I did, but I didn't mention any of them.
Okay. So I guess the big thing is the West Main Street Bridge is our biggest, I think, capital project that's outstanding right now. Not outstanding, is in the works, right? Is the West Main Street Bridge. I'm just looking at the on. Okay. And then
that's the biggie.
Okay. All right. So that's the big thing, and that's all been covered through the last few years and everything. So that's ongoing. And then is there anything else beside on here? That's.
Let's see.
I think that's. Yeah.
I don't know if there's anything else you have questions on, but yeah, these are some of the ongoing. This was as of I think November. I can't see my screen.
Okay.
Yeah, November. Yeah, so these are the big ones. West Main Bridge, so I gave an update to the select board at their Tuesday meeting. But just in short, the current bid schedule is to get it bid in May. So then we'll start construction this construction season. But it's a very complex project with the utilities involved.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, any other questions for Dan from the group here?
No, thank you very much, Dan.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Dan. I just, in the interest of public comment, is there any other public comment? While we have Dan.
I have a comment.
Sarah.
Sarah with you.
Oh, yes, Sarah, yes.
I just want to say that, well, first I want to say I saw the capital presentation from the DPW in November, and it was informative when they went to the capital planning committee. The other question I just wanted to ask about the retained earnings versus, I'm sorry, just give me just a second. Oh, what's the difference between retained earnings and reserve funds when you're talking across the water topic?
Okay.
That's my last question. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. Through you, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Retained earnings. So basically, those are the savings that we have in our water account. So I want to say we have around 3 or 4 million, maybe more. I don't have the number in front of me in the water account. So if we're going through a fiscal year, say right now, March 2024, I'm projecting my water budget and I realize, uh-oh, we're gonna end up spending more money than we budgeted for. So what we would have to do is go for a reserve fund transfer at town meeting this spring. So this is hypothetical. And so that's what a reserve fund transfer is. So you basically transfer funds from the retained earnings mid-fiscal year to add more funds into your budget so that you don't deficit spend.
I'm gone, thank you.
Well, if you want to meet another time, I can probably show you, Sarah. Just let me know.
Oh, no, thank you. I'm just having trouble with my audio, but I heard you, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Pauline?
I think I'm unmuted. Thank you, Kurt. Couple of questions for Dan. As I watched your presentation, the org chart shows that the selectmen have oversight over the transfer station ultimately. Am I correct in understanding that?
That is correct. They are my boss, well, Robert's boss too. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I knew that, but I didn't want to ask it that way. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you for that. And you know where I'm going with that, so I'll leave that alone. The tree warden, is he still on a stipend? I believe he's a DPW employee now.
That's a good question there. Robert, or maybe, I don't know, Harry might know how that is set up, because we don't have a specific contract like we do with the DPW union. Yeah.
Mr. Chair.
Yes,
Members of the
for
FinCom.
Robert.
So up until 2018, the tree warden was an elected position of the town. Through town meeting, there were some changes made to some aspects of the form of the government. One of them was that passed by town meeting that the tree warden became appointed. So Mr. Dixon was the elected tree warden. After that change, he was retained as the appointed tree warden, and he works in the DPW and reports to the DPW director. He is not covered under the collective bargaining agreement for the DPW, so he's sort of a unique employee in that sense. He is part of the DPW, but not under the DPW contract. And I wouldn't say a DPW employee like the others in that sense, but he reports to the director. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert.
Sorry, Dan, I'm not going to bring this up right now, but I would like to talk to you about what Robert just said, that Mark is not covered under the collective bargaining agreement. So we'll just leave that for later, okay?
Okay.
Because he should be covered if he's an employee of the town. So let me move on to, who is the Woodlawn Cemetery Superintendent? Tonight was the first time I heard that phrase.
Yeah, so the cemetery superintendent, it's a temporary position at DPW. He's the current position holder was with the previous cemetery company. So, using his knowledge and his, abilities, it was great to have him on board to help us get started with maintaining the cemetery. So that's what that's for. So he's just a temporary employee. There's, not a lot of work he has. That's why the wages aren't very high. But
Fair enough, but I think that should be a little clearer for others who may not have the same questions I have. I have 2 more questions, and I'm struggling because I can't see in the dark very well. I want to talk with you, Dan, about the crosswalk study that I brought up last year during the budget cycle. I purposely left you to do what you needed to do because you were doing a study and we were gonna find out what crosswalks in town needed to be flashing signs versus the signs you put up on Central Ave. I will say, I thank you very much. Those signs have made a difference, but I still have to wait a number of times for cars to pass. That's okay. You know what? I'm used to it. It's okay. But what about why are we not funding in your budget the flashing crosswalk signs that are clearly going to save people's lives?
So, based on the criteria, Matt, the town engineer, and myself, along with our consultant, did look at this. And I think there are approximately 9 locations that meet the criteria, of which 8 of them have a project associated to them in the future. And one of them is on the state highway, so we have to work with them to get it done. So at this time, it doesn't seem appropriate to put in any funding specifically for an RFP since we have the projects kind of lined up with them.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's just hope nobody is hurt.
And your last item, Pauline?
Kurt, thank you. I said, let's just hope nobody is hurt.
Okay. No, you mentioned you had,
What happened in Groton a couple of years ago.
you mentioned you had 2 more items. One, I assume number 1 was the
Nope.
crosswalks, and so then that's it?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Very
Have a
good.
Good evening.
Good, thank you, Pauline. So, okay, just a quick summation, Dan, on your presentation. One, thank you very much for your time and the detail on that. I did make a note that we are going to follow up with Barbara on the debt, interest, and principal splits that we see under sewer and water. And then also on Devon's sewer capacity.
Yeah,
Okay,
got it.
all right. Any other questions from our group for Dan, or? Nope. Okay, thank you very much, Dan, for your time. Appreciate that. And the Finance Committee will now move on to the next item in the agenda, which is the FY 2025 budget process update. I'm just going to real quick touch on, I gave everyone a calendar at our last meeting, and the next item for the Finance Committee is next Wednesday, March 27th at 6 p.m. We are having the joint meeting with the Select Board on the second FY 2025 public budget forum. That's easy for me to say. So just as a member that we should be there. The next thing will be that Friday, the March 29th, the warrant will be sent out by email for us to review. And then on Tuesday, April 2nd at 6 p.m., we have a joint meeting with the Select Board where we will review the warrants and approve those. Okay. And then just for our purposes, April 4th and April 16th, we are set up, April 4th and April 18th, Thursday at 6 p.m. will be our regular Finance Committee meetings. And Andrew had a great suggestion, is that April 2nd, we will pretty much be done with the warrant for 2025, and we can, our meetings on April 4th and April 18th start to look forward, two things. Make sure we're ready for the town meeting on April 22nd, and then start looking forward to 2026's budget and how we should start looking at that. Any questions or on that?
Nope.
Okay. Outside committee updates. I think those are Robert, with the rate review was pretty much finished at the select board meeting on last 2 days ago when they approved the rate review. The buy board, we had our meeting and that came up with some funding,
What were the rates? Do you remember the rate
yeah.
increases?
2 and 5%.
2 and 5.
2% water and 5% sewer.
Every time.
The buy board, and this was also covered in the select board meeting on Tuesday, 2 days ago, was some funding for the 71 Sandy Pond Road and for the health insurance. And so there's details in the select board meeting minutes. And so that's for our outside committees. Schedule next meeting, I think I've sort of covered that. Got our schedule for the rest of the year. And then that brings us, do we have any other questions from the group here? And I also open for public comment on any other items.
Nothing from me.
Good.
Okay. In that case, do I have a motion?
What you do today, Kurt.
Okay, I make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 7:22 PM.
Seconded.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Jim?
Aye.
Aye. Very good. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much, and thank you everyone for attending.